Hi all, welcome back to the La La Rally Part 2. Sorry it's took so long to get it out. But this is what normally happens on the lay day, which is the Saturday, is people go over to Abermenai and barbecue, play games and generally have a little bit of fun. That's those of them that can get out of bed, that is. And I'm not normally one of them that can get out of bed too easy. So back at Victoria Dock, I'm going to see my mate in his ivory tower, Yuan, the dock master. All as I wanted was a photo with me mate, but there's no way he can get 2 minutes to himself. The radio's going, somebody's coming in, somebody's going out, there's always something for him to do. But there you go, we get a second and we get that quick photo clip. We spent the day enjoying as much alcohol as we could do, I think, and then we moved on to the Royal Welsh after we'd drunk the boats dry. Nigel was there walking his dog. It was very well behaved, but it wouldn't sit. There's a brilliant view, as you can see the sun's going down. As we look out over the Menai Straits here from the balcony at the Royal Welsh, you can see it's a lovely, lovely sunset. So everything's starting to look a little bit golden and brown. And a nice evening's still going to be had. I couldn't think of a nicer place really to while the hours away with a little bit of alcohol and some good company. It's one of those places that the time disappears a little bit too quickly and before you know it, the night's over. But it doesn't get over that easy. We go back to the boats and there's still a bit of daylight left. So we go from boat to boat, chatting on different people's boats and having generally a bit of a laugh. It's when you can have a little bit of a sing and tell some strange stories. I think it's about now all the conversations stop connecting. They vary off in all kinds of different tangents, but somehow we seem to follow it and all make head or tail of it. But all good things must come to an end, and night falls down upon us soon enough. And that's another nice, relaxing day, gone, disappeared, never to be repeated. There's still the odd signs of life around the marina, you know, somebody falling over the guard wires and a sharp thump. Thankfully there's been no splashes tonight. The next morning, however, all these boats have got to get out and get moving, and so have we, but we're lucky because we're in a very short raft. There's only about 4 or 5 boats in our raft, so we're not going to have any trouble getting away. So like any raft, you have to start by getting the shorelines off first and unravelling them from each other's boats. Jay's manhandling his boat backwards while Paul pushes it away with his boat hook. It's because Tarka doesn't go backwards, she doesn't really have much to do in the stern. But one by one we'll escape out of here, and luckily for Paul, his boat's facing the right way round, so it's nice and easy for him. I'd like to say that was his plan when he came in, but I'm not sure if it was or it wasn't. But if it was a good plan. For escaping, that is. And here he is, he's ready to go. That's number 2 gone. And we're number 3, so I best get myself ready now, and I've still got a line or 2 on. Well, it's just as well Andy's here to give me a hand casting off, because I think Lisa's still in bed, because has anybody seen her this morning? No, nobody's seen her this morning. Well, it should all be easy enough for me to escape as I just go straight backwards. Well, put a little bit of a curl in if nothing else. I've got plenty of room behind me. So Andy walks me back for a little bit and then I'm off, and all I've got to do is let the bow come round on its own. And there you go, we're ready to escape. And there's my mate up there running along to say goodbye to me. There he is. A quick wave and I'm gone. Well, it's goodbye to Victoria Dock and goodbye to Carnarvon for now, until we see them again. There's not much favourable wind or current at this moment in time, so we're actually going to steam our way down to Vellinelly and pick up a mooring and wait the tide for the Swellies, which should be a low water transit. So the rest of the fleet have got plenty of time to get themselves out of Carnarvon, and we'll all meet up at Port de Norwich, Vellinelly. This, I think, is one of them times where you keep your throttle quite close to its chatting point, so your engine's singing, so you get there sooner rather than later. There's no sense in taking your time while the road's slipping underneath your feet. It'd be a different kettle of fish if things were going my way, but they're not. There'll be two sets of thoughts as people are coming out. Shall I go across the banks, or shall I follow the voyage? And it's all down to how brave you are and how much you draw, I think. Well, I was going to motor straight on, but then I thought to myself, I may as well just motor along the voyage. It's not like I've got to be somewhere at a particular time. So I'll just plough along, and when I get there, I'll get there and pick up a mooring. Well, what's going on? Let's have a look at the stats then. We're doing 5 knots, which is our sort of motory cruisy speed. There's a little bit of wind on the nose, and we're quite close into the banks to avoid the main flow. But we're still only doing 2.4 knots over the ground, which means we've got 2.6 knots at least against us as current, which means so does everybody else. The Menai Straits, however, are nice and flat and accommodating a nice motor, with them being such, because you can get best speed through the water this way. And the sensible people are obviously going the other way, using the sails and using the tide. While the rest of us will just have to make the best of what we got, which is an enjoyable motor, because it is a nice day, so we may as well make the best of it and enjoy it. Just look at the ebb on these boys, it's well screaming along. It's about 3 knots on each of these because the water moves quite quick between them. These two boats have decided to take the shallows across. One of them's going a bit slower with caution and the other one knows he's deeper than him, so he's alright to carry on at his pace. But here we are, arriving in Fellinelly, Port de Norwich. Well, I motor up to a buoy and Lisa says to me, "It's vanished. Where's it gone? But I can see it there. It's on the port side, Lisa." Let's see if we can get back over to that. She's got one of those hooks that leaves a rope on it, and it takes a couple of seconds to work it out how to do it. You got to push it on, pull it off, and it leaves the rope in the eye, but it all goes to plan. And now we've got that enjoyable task, you know, watching everybody else come in and pick up a buoy. Some of them do it professionally, some of them do it very easily. Some of them struggle a little bit and some of them don't. Some will get it first time and some will get it second time. And others, well, others take the time deciding which actual buoy they're going to go for. And then when they get there, if you know the Benny Hill theme tune, it's a good time to start singing it now. It's just about the right occasion and it would fit very well. Splashdown, that's take 1 done. Let's have a take 2. This is the professional way to do it. Grab it from a stern and once you've got it, stick it on something that'll hold it tight. Let the boat swing round. He's used his winch, and once the boat's swung round, if you've got enough length, get to the bow. So the boat's moving backwards as he's walking to the bow, which is a very good way to do it. Now he's just got to stick it on something solid on the boat. And hey presto, he's moored. There's plenty of boats coming in now. There's a big long line of them arriving, and they'll all be picking up a mooring soon. Well, here comes Maya. Maya's got the slow and steady approach, which I absolutely approve of. Take your time, get yourself almost to ferry gliding, so that when you get to the buoy, you're stopping at the buoy. Although I did overshoot it. But then, the thought was right, my actions were just wrong. Mehru's got his own version of a one-man pickup going on. Let the buoy come all the way along, and get a line in it, and then what you do? Well, you moor it from the stern first. A very clever idea, I'm sure. Now here's Mayer on the move again. He were happily moored last time I seen him. This is where we all seem to make that final stretch. Can I get there? And when you get there, you feel that's great. You get hold of the strop, and when the strop comes up to you, you have a dilemma. And the dilemma we all have is, what do I do with this boat hook that's in my way now? It's tying up a hand and I need both of them. Well, we all struggle to get rid of that boat hook, I think. But once you've got it down, just get the strop fast on a cleat somewhere. Well, it all looks like it's going well. There's quite a bit of current about, but as long as it swings round, he'll be backwards rather than forwards. Here comes split decision to show us all how to do it professionally. These boat hooks which feed the rope through the eye, they're really good because as long as your arm's good enough to keep it steady and exactly where you want it, one jab and that line's in there, and look how easy they made that look. But again, the big trick here is to have two people, because if you've noticed, the people where there's only one person on the helm and they've got to go and grab the buoy themselves, that's where the problem arises. Although it's not a problem for everyone, because he's not putting a lot of effort into pulling that boat backwards, so there ain't much drag on that hull. Well, as I look back down the straits now, there just seems to be everyone arriving all at once, so this should be loads of fun. Lisa says to me, "Don't be watching people trying to pick moorings up, you're going to put them off. If somebody was staring at you when you were going to pick a mooring up, it'd put you off, so stop watching people and stop pointing that camera at them." No one's paying any attention anyway. Looks like Mehru's decided to turn the boat round. Maybe this was his plan in the first place and I just didn't see it coming. Well, I think most people are too busy to notice that I'm pointing the camera at them. And especially when you're fishing for a buoy, I think your concentration would be 100% on that buoy, or the pickup line, or the eye, or whatever it is, and not what I'm doing with my camera. Now, it absolutely does help if there's two of you when you're picking up a mooring. One to be in control of the boat, to put it where you need to put it, and the other one to collect the rope that's in the water, the strop, or the floating buoy or what have you, and that makes life totally easy. Has anyone seen where that buoy's gone? Well, they keep arriving. They just keep a-coming. Everywhere I look at the moment, somebody's just dropped the mooring or just picked the mooring up, or is trying to get hold of a mooring buoy, or is struggling with the buoy. But sure enough, every boat's finding a buoy so they can all stop and have the breakfast one by one. But once breakfast's over, we've got to remember why we're here. We're just waiting for the time for the Swellies. Boats are still pouring in. There must have been a lot of free moorings here for all these boats to get a grip somewhere. And here comes Nigel with Sheena on the bow now. She's got one of those smart boat hooks that just clips the rope in. Oops, I think unfortunately Nigel's not stopped and he's going to carry on. Looks like the boat's still carrying a little bit of weight there and it's not stopping. It's not going to deter Sheena, she's going after it. She's going to get that buoy, give her a stab. Well, the final touches now. Everything's moved to the bow and she's going to hang from the bow. It's a little bit of a long way to get around there, but it works. Well, now that everybody's safely moored, me and RJ decide it's time to set off for the Swellies. And as I look back, everybody seems to have exactly the same idea. And they're all just dropping the moorings and pouring along behind us. This transit we're doing now through the Swellies is a neat transit where the water doesn't move very fast anyway. It's also where the water doesn't disappear, and we're doing it in the state of low water. It's not actually low water, but it's the low water time for it, that's all. When you get to a spring, an actual low water of spring, which isn't the correct time to be going through, although I've been through at that point, there's rocks everywhere. But at the moment, we'll only see the tops of one or two. Sticking up there on our port side, we've got a little bit of cribbing. Still, it's not the rocks you can actually see that normally cause you any damage, if you get any. It's the ones that are lying just below the surface of the water. And that's a very good reason to keep your leading marks in line with each other, so even though that you're in the water, you stay in the bit without the rocks in. Swellies Rock is only just peeking out, and once you've turned the corner and past the man who's fishing on the side, you've only got to get under the bridge safely and you're away, which is quite easy on a neap tide. And as you depart the Swellies, we continue down the Menai Straits. Menai's the first place on your port side that you're going to pass. Menai's a pretty place as well, and a nice little town, always worth a visit. There's always a couple of nice motor sailors knocking round here, just to make you drool a little. Further up the strait you can actually see the meeting of the both tides, the north and south side coming together there. They're both the same tides, it's just that one's had to go right round Anglesey to meet up with the other one. And then when they meet they normally create a slack, and that slack's chased up or down. Well, I think the tide's going to fall a little bit more, but the sandbanks are out already. And there's plenty of sandbanks out. If you look closely at the colour of the water you can see like orangey bits in it. Well, that's definitely the sand just sitting underneath the surface of the water, waiting for the skipper who's not paying attention to what's going on. And there he is, not paying attention to what's going on. Although he'll say, I've put my boat there just to scrub off, which he probably did. Now I'm going to give you a treat now. I'm going to give you a 360 of this part of the Menai Straits. And as you can see, there's a lot of mountains over there with a bit of low-lying cloud on. But the mountains have still got a bit of sunshine on as well, and a lot of green. There's a lot of sandbanks up. As you can see, they continuously run round you, the sandbanks, and he gets to sit on one quite happily. That's towards Conwy, that's the Great Orme, and this is the Clanver Sands that continue all the way up to Puffin Island more or less. And there's Puffin Island with the little gap in the middle, and back to Anglesey mainland. Back down Anglesey mainland, all the way back to where I started the pan from. Well, you'll notice that it is just as beautiful as the Cowes of Bute, and that's why I say this is our Welsh Cowes of Bute. Oh, and I think it helps a hell of a lot that it's a beautiful day, because everything looks nicer when the sun shines. I wonder really, was this a scrubbing off plan, or was it a mistake? And at the end of the day, only the skipper knows. Right, because we're just closing up on low water now, got loads and loads and loads of time. Going to go through this sound, Puffin Sound here, and as the area opens up on the other side, I'm going to stick the sails up, and no matter what and how long it takes, we'll be sailing back to Conwy. My, that's a busy anchorage. That's the Puffin Island anchorage there, and I've not seen it so busy for such a long time. That says how nice a day it is. There's fishing boats and yachts everywhere you look. It's probably one of the really busy days today. As we pass the sound. Well, just as I pass through the last bit of sound, bobbing on the motorboat wakes, I'll get my sails up and start sailing. And they're up and we're off. And I'm not sure where we're going, but we're going to try and get to Conwy in any way or fashion we can do. And we've got 3 knots through the water, so I think we're fair flying. Well, we've got about 6 hours to do about 8 miles. So that means that we only need to make just over a knot. Lisa knows this, and she's setting chilled already. I'm just enjoying the fact that we've turned the engine off after a couple of hours of buzzing. An hour to the first stop and an hour to here. So now is the time that we'll get some peace and quiet, some sailing and some enjoyment, and throw in a few tacks in very light air. Well, there's enough wind to keep Jolly Rogers streaming, so there's enough wind to keep the sails filled, so there's enough wind to keep us moving through the water. And as long as that's enough and we can get over the knot, we'll get home. But first we've got our tackleway past Puffin Island, and that at this pace is going to be a slow job. 1.5 through the water, 3 over the ground, and a little bit more over the ground. Well, it looks like Lisa's found out what she's doing for the day now. Now that she's got up and she's had breakfast and that. She's not sleeping in bed anymore. Nope, she's sleeping in the cockpit now. But she's sleeping. The rest of the La fleet are now slowly coming through Puffin Sound one by one. And some of them will take to sailing, and some of them will just be in a rush to get back. Although nobody can get back, so there's no reason not to set your sails and ghost around. If you set your sails and ghost around, you'll just use up the usable time, because most people can't get over the bar just yet. And on such a nice day, why would you want to rush back anyway? We may as well make the best of it. We've all had to motor for a bit. Well, I only really know one good way to improve light air sailing, and it's get the wind to where you want it. Because once you've actually got the wind where you want it, you can change your sail plan a little bit and have a bit more fun. And lunch. Lunch under cruise and shoot always tastes a whole lot better. In fact, everything's a lot more fun when it's sunny and the cruise and shoot's up. But are we flying along? Just over 3 knots. I think that's fairly fast. What wind have we got? 6 knots, 7 knots of wind. We're using half of it. So 50% we're making off whatever wind we're given. And we're sort of running. Well, definitely a very broad reach, if nothing else at this moment. Struggling a little bit to keep enough wind in to keep this thing flying the way I want it to. If you look down into the water, you can just about make the reflection of the cruise and shoot out. There's a little bump on the water, but only tiny, but it's still there. And that's what it's reflecting, me shoot. These days are very favourable, if you've got the time to enjoy them. You've not really got anywhere to go and you've got lots of time to get there. Here's my bro now, and he looks quite chilled, just sitting there letting the boat rock him along. So I think we'll go over and pinch his wind.
Ah, you brought me bloody wind.
Well, that's Conwy Mountains ahead of us, and at this rate we'll get there far too soon. Though I'm not rushing, and when I get to the shallow areas I might just turn round and sail back out again for a bit. The boats that are way behind me have got a much better timing than me, and have obviously sorted their timings out much better than I have mine. They'll probably arrive at the bar at the correct time, just to sail straight in. I'm not in front though, there is boats ahead of me, and I'm still past 1 or 2 along the way, so people are still sort of arriving around the same time as me, which means we'll all struggle with the bar if we get there and it's a bit shallow. Well, the tide's going to be going with us now because we're on the flood, so although we've only got 6 knots of wind, we're still making 3 knots through the water. But unfortunately now, we're making more than 3 over the ground, which is going to get us there even quicker. Well, it says half an hour before I arrive at the bar, so 30 minutes, anything can happen in 30 minutes. Wind can pick up, wind can disappear. The magical tranquility of summer zephyrs just can't be beaten. Well, I can see somebody in the distance down there has got the cruise and shoot out. And some boats are slippy enough that they don't actually require a cruise and shoot. Well, just ahead of me now, I can see ruffles on the water there, and little bits of orange in them, little waves breaking, and that indicates that there's sand there. That's a bit of a bar to watch out for. And as we're starting to travel down the voyage, you can see the bars around you just cracking the surface, and some areas are all still sand. As I approach the dog leg coming up ahead of us, there's a bit of a shallow just before it, but there should be enough water to go over it, even though we've only got 2.3 metres now and falling. Well, I know Swallow won't touch the bottom until that says 0.2. So while it's turned around and staying above 0.2, and we're just getting into the shallow bit now, we've got 1.6, which actually means we've got 1.4 metres before we go thump. And it's getting a little bit shallower as I speak.
0.8.
Well, I just hit the bottom. Not because I ran out of water, because I left the channel. and I left the channel because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, because there was a boat who'd stopped in front of me and I was trying to sail. But sometimes things work and sometimes things don't. But it's an incoming tide, so I never stopped for long. I just thumped the ground and then carried on. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the return leg of the Lala Rally. And you should. If you like it and you're anywhere near close, book yourself on it and come on it next year. It really is a good fun rally, and it brings out camaraderie and everything else. You never know, it might find annual place on your calendar. So until next time, bon voyage everyone.